Could the Earth really be flat? Does spontaneous human combustion really happen? Was that Bigfoot going for a walk in the woods? Those are some of the questions that are being answered in the new book, Pseudoscience, an amusing history of crackpot ideas and why we love them. And we are happy to be joined now by the book's authors, Dr. Lydia, Kang, and Nate Pedersen. And welcome to you both. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
for
us.
having us.
So, Dr. Kang, let me start with this. I know at the beginning of the book you cite a New York Times study that says about 50% of the American population believes in at least one debunked conspiracy theory. Is that why you wrote this book?
Well, it's part of the reason why we wrote the book. We have been interested in the subject for some time. Our first book together was Quackery, A Brief History of the Worst Ways to Cure Everything. So this was just kind of an extension into a different type of quackery instead of medical stuff. We went into a lot more pop culture and the things that sort of inhabit our day-to-day lives in the realm of pseudoscience.
So, Nate, let me ask you this. Whether we're talking about Bigfoot or UFOs or anything else, is there something like a common thread that ties all these theories together, how these theories sort of got developed?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one element of that is that pseudoscience often offers simple answers to what are actually pretty complex questions. And I also think pseudoscience often plays with our sense of the mysterious. I think as human beings, we all want to have the world around us have an element of magic, an element of mystery. And a lot of pseudoscience plays into that very human desire.
So I know, I'm thinking of the flat Earth theory, right? There's just so much science to prove otherwise. Is there something that keeps these theories going for such a long time?
Well, I think there is a little bit of faith involved when it comes to science. Like the science has made it really, really clear that the Earth is round, that it spins around on a tilt, that sort of a thing. And these were discovered thousands of years ago, not just
Yeah.
recently. But to tell people to sort of just believe that this is true when they're looking out over an ocean and they're like, that ocean's looking really flat. Maybe there is a conspiracy here and they're just trying to keep the actual truth from us. So I think that there is sometimes this sort of distinct separation between the actual data and what people perceive with their eyes. And whether we like it or not, our eyes and our sensory abilities as a human are not very good at discerning the actual truth of science and the natural world. So because of that, that difference, there's a lot of people out there who want to say, well, I'm not going to believe it unless I see it with my own eyes. And that's one of the big parts of pseudoscience is sort of anecdotal evidence of like, well, this is what I believe, this is what I see. So that must be true. And it goes against, thousands of years sometimes of science.
So I'm thinking here in Florida, we have our own version of Bigfoot, the swamp ape, and of course there's series about the Bermuda Triangle. Are there certain areas that are sort of prone to developing theories, or these pseudoscience theories?
Certain areas? That's a good question. I thought the Florida, like the famous Florida cryptid was a snollygaster. Maybe that's another
You're
one that
teaching
you've
me
heard of.
something new.
Yeah, it's like a swamp creature, like this amphibious swamp creature that likes to eat people. Um, but right, it's like such a fun idea. It's a fun idea to think that in your backyard, where everything has already been discovered, that every corner of the earth has been explored, that there are still these pockets of the unknown. And that's everywhere, right? I think everybody likes to think that there is a part of the world that is unexplored, that we don't have all the answers. And, going with what Nate had originally said about how like we still like mystery, the other thing that humans also really like to do is that we like to look things up and we like to try to find the answers as well. And that's a universal thing. So it's not geographic, it's all over the place.
Nate, in writing this book, was there one theory that just kind of blew your mind or shocked you that, you're like, I cannot believe people believe this?
Yeah, one that we've happily created a lot of distance from, but which was really common in ancient Rome, was the practice of using chickens to interpret the will of the gods, and then in turn using that interpretation to guide your decision-making process. Granted, now we've turned to other things like astrology or tarot card readings, for example, but in ancient Rome, they used chickens, and the way a chicken interacted with its environment, the way it interacted with its food, if it was excited or not excited about eating that day, that in turn showed people if something you were considering was an auspicious thing to do or not. Was it a good thing to do or not would it lead to a beneficial result. So using chickens to interpret behavior and desire of the gods, and then letting that guide your day-to-day decision making, or even worse, the statecraft of an entire nation. I think that's something we've created a lot of distance from and we can laugh at now, but it's also kind of a funny example of how pseudoscience can become embedded in a civilization and embedded in a culture as well.
Well, I know our producer has had a thrilling time reading this book, so thank you so much for all that you shared with us on this. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for watching. We've got more great content for you, from news to the arts to the environment. So be sure to like and subscribe to WGCU's YouTube channel and follow us on our social media platforms for the stories that matter to you.